Hello and welcome to the EG Success Mindset Podcast. I am your host, Ernest Gikuma, a place created for business owners, team leaders, and individuals who want to learn how to communicate with clarity, develop self-confidence, and build high-performing team culture. Together, we explore the C.O.D.E, personality, and the C3 leadership framework. So if you are ready to uncover your potential, optimize your performance, and multiply your productivity, you are in the right place. Welcome wherever you are. I really appreciate you being here. Remember to click the button below to subscribe so you can be notified when I upload any other episodes. Last week, or in the last episode, we discussed something powerful. Confidence is identity expressed. Confidence is identity expressed. Now, have you ever seen someone walking with head down and shoulders slouched? What do you think that does to their body? It affects their breathing. If it affects their breathing, it affects their mind, and it's very likely that it affects the way they express themselves. They don't appear very confident. What about when you walk in and you try this? Okay, try slouching down as you're walking or even sitting, and then lift your shoulders up, lift your chin up, and open your chest. More air is coming in and you feel different. There's a different feeling when you present your body as if you're alive. So confidence is identity expressed. When and your identity comes from or is intertwined with your code. Right, in another previous episode, I took you through the C.O.D.E personality framework. That's whether you're a connector, an organizer, a detail-oriented individual, or effervescent person. But once confidence begins to grow within yourself, it expresses itself through your voice, through your tone, and through your body language. Today, we are going to go through communication. That is a second C in the C3 leadership framework. The C3 leadership framework, once again, is communication, confidence, and culture. Last episode, we covered communication. Today, we're going to look a little bit more into in episode number 2, our previous episode, we covered something powerful, and we said that confidence is identity expressed. And your identity, as we've gone through, you will find yourself in one of the 4 letters in the word code: connector, organizer, detail-oriented, or effervescent individual. We also discussed and said the things that really helps, let's say, for example, a connector to really grow their confidence, to bloom as an individual. We also spoke about what threatens their personality or threatens their code. We also said that as an effervescent individual, they like to show off. They're full of color, they are expressive, they're highly spirited individual. We also said if you really want to destroy or demean them or affect how they present or do their work, micromanagement. So again, listen to that episode, and I believe it will give you some key ideas of how you as a leader can influence those around you. So last week was confidence. That's the first C in our C3 leadership framework. Today, we are going to be diving into the second C, which is communication. So if confidence, which we discussed before, is light, okay, from within, communication, we can then, sort of say it's like color, right? One side you have the white light, and on the other side you have the rainbow. White light just brightens things up. Rainbow adds the wow factor. So today, as we enter into communication, I wanted you to understand this, that communication is how your energy, whether you're a connector, whether you're an organized person, whether you're detail-oriented, or an effervescent individual, communication is how your energy, which is internal, meets the world. That's your expression. How people see and understand you. And this really is truly how you begin to influence. Remember, people will not remember what you said. They'll remember how you said it, but more importantly, how you made them feel. So communication then is the art and the science of influencing other people's perceptions from within, communicating a clear message, and making them feel or shift internally. So, if we go into today's, as we go deeper, your code, remember you said your code is your hardwiredness, right? So, for example, if you're a very expressive, effervescent individual, it's just the way you come up. You enjoy sport, you always like winning, and you like argument as well. Because the key thing is, what's life without a bit of banter or a fight, right? If you're a detail-oriented individual, noise doesn't really get to you. You just want to focus and get those details right. And if you're in an argument with an effervescent individual and they're getting their facts wrong, you're going to hammer them down. So today we're going to have a look at how do individuals within your code, how do you communicate better? How do you get better at communicating? So as a connector, I'm a people person. What do you think? Connectors are warm, they are relational, and they have emotional tones in their voices. Oh, facial expressions will be one of, can I hug you? They are the huggy people, right? And they speak from the heart. The emotion leads a lot. Facts don't matter that much to them. Stories, big time. That's your connector. It's all about the feeling. What about an organizer? A person who is an organizer requires communication to be clear, structured, step by step, and they speak from order. So, and you can understand the reason why is because in a way they are wired differently. Their hardware is organized to interpret information in a particular way. So organizers then, when they are speaking, for example, to connectors, they have trouble following a connector's warmth, a lot of emotion. So they ask questions to try and organize the information that's coming to them. Now, detail-oriented individual, if you're part of your technical helpline side of things, precision, facts, and analytical, okay, or analysis. Precise, factual, and analytical, right? And they speak from what they like to call truth, right? Because at the end of the day, they see the life, they see the world. Communication to them expresses itself through their lenses of precision, factual, and analytical. So they can be quite a pain in the backside for a connector because they'll keep prodding to make sure that the person is getting their facts right? So if you're detail oriented, you know what I'm talking about. You don't listen to all kind of things. In fact, even music, you probably prefer more on the metal side of music because you can identify the sounds and where they are placed. Whereas, other types of music just, it's too simple. What about the effervescent individuals? Right. These are your energetic, expressive, and inspiring people. They speak from the big picture. And if you find very good politicians across history, and especially if they were very good orators, not necessarily trained, because if you're trained, you can learn to do anything, but effervescent leaders cast a big picture. And in most cases, they show up in times of serious trouble. And I'm going to draw attention to the current US President, Donald Trump. I happen to be a fan of Donald Trump for many different reasons. Number one, his business acumen. But in this context, he is extremely effervescent. Now, he is very keen on order and organization. But the way he expresses himself, he's very large. He's a big picture person. That's why he went to do hotels. You don't build hotels are normally not small. I mean, in England, you have small hotels. But in most countries, hotels are majestic buildings. So he communicates from a big picture vision. And that's just an example. Now, if you look within your organization, if you look within your company, within your community, you're going to see this kind of individuals. So the understanding that each person communicates from their code framework begins to open your eyes to understand the other person and how they say what they say. Now, a communication conversation or episode would not be complete without referencing one of the greatest communication professors, Albert Morabian, who gave us the 3 unique numbers of what communication means. Now, if you've never come across this, let's do a quick test. Now, out of your words and how you say them and your body language, how you express yourself, which one do you think has the biggest influence on the listeners? Out of your sound, or rather, what you're saying, the words you're using, your tonality, up and down, or your body language, the expression, which do you think is the most influential on the listener? Now, if you've said your words carry the most influence, you're wrong. What about if you said it's my tone of voice, it's my pitch, it's my rhythm? Almost. The biggest influence anytime you're communicating, according to Albert Morabian, is your facial expression and body language. It has the largest influence in what you're saying or what you're trying to communicate. That's why movies are so powerful. Remember, they're called movies because they move you. Imagine a movie without seeing the other person's face. It's different. Now, 7%, the words we use, they only represent 7% of what we are saying. What? 7%? Yes. 7% of what you say comes from the 7% of meaning comes from your words. Only 7% of the meaning comes from your words. 38% comes from the words, how they are said, how you use your voice, your tone, your pace, your pitch, and your rhythm. And an overwhelming 55% comes from your facial expression and body language. Those are the 3 very important numbers. And especially if you're a leader. And it doesn't matter when. It doesn't matter how. Of course, the only time it might have an influence is if you're rather listening on a podcast like yourself, or you're watching a video on YouTube or any other place that you're listening to this. So the words I use only represent 7%. 38% come on how I say it. So you can see then 7% are just the facts. 38% are the hows. The what is 55%. That's pretty huge. In other words, 93% of communication is non-verbal. Right? 93% of communication is non-verbal. And this is why code is so important. Because when you begin to understand how you express yourself, which of your 4 letters you stand in, you can begin to shape your face. You can begin to express your energy differently. You can use your natural tones, or at least learn how to communicate better. You can shift your body language, and you can effectively change and shape how people perceive what you intend to communicate. So if I'm an effervescent individual and I'm speaking to, let's say, a group of tech people, me coming there and being bold and rash and loud doesn't impress them. In fact, if at all, it's likely to put them off. Why? Because they are listening for something different. So if I calm my energy down a little bit, and then I put my facts right, and then I can use my modalities, my tone of voice, my facial expression to communicate precision, with precision, and present myself as someone who knows their stuff. Remember, in the previous episode, we said that the detail-oriented individuals like to have a high level of authority. So if I am coming to them as an effervescent individual and I'm all loud and no detail and no intellectual authority, they're not going to be listening to me. But if I come in after polishing my information and then tone down my energy, I'll be speaking their language, which means my message can go far much more than just me coming and saying, this is who I am. So when you understand your code, you're not only choosing the right words, but you're choosing the right energy, you're choosing the right tone, and effectively the right presence, how you show up. Now, have you ever been to a place and you heard the person say something, but you totally understood two different things? Why was that? Because depending on how you're wired, depending on what you're seeing, you will understand based on who you are. So communication is not just color. It is tone and presence. It is the combination of your code, the message that you're carrying, delivered in confidence. Now, it's strange to think that most of us, end up in leadership positions, but we were never really taught how to communicate. Again, this is an important thing. So if you know a leader in your business, in your workplace, in your community, and you think this information is valuable, share with them. Show them what you have discovered. This is important. It's the only way you help me reach out to more people. So if then we are going, regardless of where you are, whether you are extremely well trained in communication or whether you've even never heard of this kind of stuff, it doesn't matter. What matters is this: understand that your code is your hardwiredness. Now you're discovering more and more of who you are and how you communicate. Your mindset is your software. And we can work together to help you adapt your communication so you can present yourself with much more clarity and confidence. So you can then use your mindset to start shifting how you speak, what to avoid and how to avoid what not to say. Okay? How to listen deeply and keenly. Again, we're going to be, probably in the future, I'll do another episode on listening skills. Listening is part of communication. If I don't listen to you, or I listen to you from my perception of you, which is not authentic listening, that's judgment. If I am going to listen to you effectively, I have to cast down my judgment, open my mind, and receive what you're giving to me. Now, most of us listen to speak. So while you're telling me something, I'm processing what I'm going to say back. That's never listening. If you've got to listen, you've got to feel. You've got to look at the person and see, what are they telling you? But then when you're listening to a politician, you might as well just not listen, because in most cases they'll be lying to you. Right. So the mindset, you can begin to shape or adapt your communication skills so that you can deliver a more powerful, more impactful, more clear message depending on the outcome you want. Because one, you know where you stand. Two, you know how to build your confidence. Three, you know how to communicate. More importantly, one, you now understand how to suss out your audience's code. You know what makes them awake. You know what puts them down. You know how to communicate with them. You know what makes them threatened, and you know what brings them into attention. If you missed the previous episode, please listen to it. It's very important. And eventually, as you learn to communicate, you can now begin to master conflict. Okay? Mastering conflict. So, our C3 leadership framework, confidence, we covered that last time. Today, communication. Next week, you almost know what's coming, or in the next episode, I will be talking more about culture and influence. So communication is our second pillar. When you communicate consciously, you reduce conflict, both inner conflict and external conflict, because once you have internal alignment, it's very easy to stand your ground and correct the other person. You can deepen relationships. Why? Because you don't have any hidden agendas. You're not trying to play catch. You're rather communicating directly. Now, that obviously depends on your career, so to speak, because politicians, one of my friends used to be a politician, and he said it's a necessary evil. I'm not so sure that it's a necessary evil, but this is the world we live in, and we have to be careful on how we listen to politicians. When you communicate properly, you increase trust. Remember, we said that confidence comes from the Latin word confidere. Fidere means to completely trust. So if you begin to understand yourself and to trust yourself, you can then stand and present yourself in a way that you can communicate trust. Now, if people trust you, do you think you'll be able to influence their decisions? Yes, of course you will. So that's why I urge you, I'm begging you, share this message with someone else out there. And especially if they're a manager, supervisor, they want to start their business. They have a small team of people, whether they are volunteers or not. It doesn't matter. Share the message with someone. And eventually, the better you communicate, you elevate team harmony. Because people get that you get them. The orderly individuals understand that you get them. The effervescent individual know that you've got their back and you're going to nurture them. The connectors feel warm and welcome. The detail-oriented individuals, they do feel that they have the right value when they bring information to you. And you honor them in the correct way. So communication is the gateway between awareness and culture building. Let me say that one more time. Communication is the gateway between self-awareness, I know what's going on within myself, and culture building, which is an external, those people that we bring around ourselves. Right, so when you communicate better with clarity, you are able to send the right message, and you will be misunderstood less. Right, so let me tell you a quick story. In my career, working with people, I love working with people. Don't ask me why. It's just something that is in me. As you can see, I am a connector. Conflict arose between two partners. By observation, I realized the reason why they're not getting along, was because they were two different code personalities. So one was a connector, the other one spoke from detail. So the connector is talking about me, we and us, and a lot of emotion. The other guy wants the detail. Okay, so he's asking all kind of questions that is making the connector feel a bit undermined, less confident, challenged. Now, both of them were right. They just were speaking two different languages. And most likely, you've been in such a position where you're saying one thing, but the other person seemingly doesn't get what you're saying, and you seem to be going over the same thing over and over again, which means it's just a conflict of personalities and communication styles more than the message. The moment I got them to understand where they stand in the C.O.D.E personality framework and how different codes communicate differently, all of a sudden, conflict vanished. Just like that. And believe you me when I say this, it happens in so many familial relationships. Husband and wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, dad, mom, son and father, son and mother, daughter and... This happens all the time. But when we don't know, we just don't know. So I'm hoping that you can see how powerful the C.O.D.E personality framework and the C3 leadership framework come together and create an environment, a culture that is one of understanding. Now, I'm not saying you will eliminate conflict 100%. Conflict, a certain level of conflict is necessary, but not conflict that stops people from progress. Okay? Let me explain what I mean. Let's say, for example, you have chosen to climb a mountain and you're now arguing about which shoes to wear. Well, you've agreed on the goal. Now the conflict is between detail. Now, what if you want to climb the mountain and the other person doesn't want to climb the mountain, but you kind of feel like they have to come with you because you're the superior person? Well, that's a different kind of conflict. So conflict coming from different areas, once understood properly, they deserve credit in their own right. The conflict I'm talking about here is one that is within a familiar setting, that one person is trying to communicate one thing, but is presenting it in a way that the other person doesn't understand. It's an effervescent individual coming out with these big words without the detail. Now, there's going to be a perception of imbalance of power. But really and truly, it's not power that they're fighting about. They're just trying to get the understanding and then to move forward. So, communication problems are often code problems. Communication problems are often code problems. So far we've built your identity. We've talked about the code. We've spoken about your belief, mindset. This is so crucial. And effectively, we are now going into expression. We spoke about confidence. Today we spoke about communication. Next week, we bring them all together and begin building culture. How your communication creates the environment around you, at home, at work, at church, if you're a church person, in your local community. And, as the festive holidays are upon us, even during Christmas with the larger families. So I hope that has helped you develop yourself to a certain level. It's helped you expand the knowledge about yourself. Above all things, remember what I say. Always take action. Always take action. Take one idea and implement it. Take one idea, share it with someone at work. Write down something that you're going to share with someone at your workplace. I would like to ask you to subscribe, share this content with someone else. If you have any questions, let me know. If you disagree, if you have a place of contention, if you have a place that you desire clarity, share your comments with me. I would really appreciate to know. And above all, if this is helping you, let me know how it's helping you. Do you know someone who's struggling with communication, especially in relationships? Maybe this could be helpful. Share it with them. And again, until next time, thank you so much for watching, and God bless.